Hi, I'm Ron Aiken with the WLTX Sports, and we are here to talk Gamecock football with Gamecock Central's Chris Clark and Wes Mitchell. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
A big win by the Gamecocks over the Georgia Bulldogs, an upset in most everybody's minds. Maybe not you guys included, but I certainly didn't see that one coming. But wow, what an impressive performance from just a purely big win standpoint, Chris. How big of a win was this over Georgia?
It was huge because, going into the game, Spurrier said, look, we need to have this game in order to stay alive in the SEC East race. Whether or not there are any goals beyond that, we'll see. But, for USC to be 2-1 at this point in the season and, be 1-1 in the conference is certainly better than 0-2 in the conference, 1-2 overall. So it keeps them alive in the East. As we know from the past, this is not a game that you absolutely have to win to make it to Atlanta, and in fact it's been the opposite of that the past several years, but it certainly helps. USC's loss right now is to a West team in Texas A&M, so it keeps them alive in the East. Big win.
And Wes, kind of from your standpoint, did you maybe see this coming at all, especially after the way USC opened with Texas A&M in conference?
I think the thing that would maybe help you see it coming, or where you maybe could have looked at maybe South Carolina has a chance, is just maybe the history, the recent history of this kind of rivalry game. The fact that South Carolina's played very, very well at home. They always seem to be game for this Georgia game, it seems like. So, they came to play, I thought, from the very, very beginning. And then I thought the thing that maybe South Carolina could build off once the game actually started was the fact that, we talked all week about them maybe being able to start fast. And the fact they were able to start quick, the first two games, even against ECU, the game they won, didn't really start quick on offense or defense. A&M, we know they didn't start quick on offense or defense. So for South Carolina to come out and at least start fast on offense, I think that maybe gave the offense a lot of confidence that they could move the football, they could score. So to me, before the game, South Carolina probably felt like they had a chance to stay in the game if they could get the crowd going and maybe have something good happen, and then that's exactly what happened, I think.
Yeah, Dylan Thompson had spoke in the days leading up to the game about how he needed to sort of calm himself down. He had kind of had a tendency to start a little bit hyper, and so that was something that appeared that he was able to do. He was obviously a big part of that offense getting on track early, Chris.
He was, and we saw that he was more accurate overall, not as many high balls, not as many balls behind receivers, and his receivers made some really good catches for him. Nick Jones made some big catches, Buster Anderson took some hits. And were able to pull the ball down, whereas in the first couple games, they had a couple balls where they didn't exactly do that. But Dylan made some really good decisions. He had a couple questionable decisions in the game, but other than that, he was really, really good. I think the play calling was excellent. USC had to attack Georgia offensively through the air to be able to win that football game, and that's what they were able to do. And the protection up front was really, really good too. Georgia only had 1 sack and 3 quarterback hurries, and none of those came from Leonard Floyd, who's one of the best pass rushers in the country for Georgia.
Yeah, that was a big difference in the game. And defensively, Wes, big area of concern, could the Gamecocks slow down Georgia? And just enough times it seems they did.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird. You kind of say, well, defense maybe played well, and then you say, well, still gave up 35 points, but then, I think bonus points for the defense, and that, you had the offense gave Georgia the ball back on a fumble and an interception, and both times South Carolina was able to force a field goal, and one of those field goals was missed late in the game. So, and I thought, for the most part, South Carolina had to make Georgia just earn everything they got. They had a couple of easy plays early on. You had the screen pass that went for an easy touchdown, but as the game wore on, I thought South Carolina's front four played better and better, probably played their best game of the year. And, just the fact that they were, they didn't wear down, I don't think, and that was something that's been a big topic of discussion for Georgia and Clemson, was that Gurley and those running backs kind of wore Clemson down. I didn't think South Carolina's defense kind of wore down as much as the game went along. So I thought it was not necessarily a pretty effort from the defense, but a gutsy effort, and one where you say they did just enough.
Yeah, I think we heard also Dylan Thompson mention that in the postgame, having kind of a soldier mentality. And if you're talking about a defense with not a lot of big standouts, but a lot of guys that rotate in, that can keep people fresh, I think that's a good mentality for that defense going forward, is no matter who's in there, just perform and get the job done. And that's probably what is kind of a best case scenario for them moving forward, is just who's ever in there, slow them down enough for that offense to stay on track. And Mike Davis is a guy that kind of came forward, had a good game, and then Brandon Wilds came in and really rushed superbly. Looking forward to the rest of this season, Chris, how do those two guys stack up in terms of carries and health?
Well, Mike isn't fully healthy, as we all know, and he had the sprained ankle. He's banged up sort of going into the game, but if he can get healthy, obviously that's a bonus for South Carolina. He's their best running back when he's healthy and when he's playing well. But Brandon Wilds, as he's shown many times during his career, is a very capable back. He played very, very well against Georgia. I think he had a much better game than his first couple games. Picked up some big first downs, moved the chains, had a nice touchdown run for the Gamecocks. So his presence was certainly key in the game as well.
And Wes, what do you look forward kind of the rest of the season? Does South Carolina have a loss until they play Auburn?
I think they have to look at this game as a good win, but a win where they still know they made a lot of mistakes. I think if they can keep getting better and kind of build on the mistakes they made, then they can keep winning. If they look at this game as we beat Georgia, we've arrived, then I think you have to worry about obviously Missouri in a couple of weeks, and then trip to Kentucky might be a little bit harder now as well from what we saw. Kentucky went toe-to-toe with Florida, so every kind of one game at a time mentality, I think, for this team.
Yeah, they scared the Dickens out of Florida in the swamp, and so that game looks a little different. But for now, we look at Vanderbilt is up next for the Gamecocks after a 38-35 win over Georgia at home. A huge win sets the stage for the rest of the season in a much more exciting fashion than we thought this time last week. For Gamecock Central and WLTX, I'm Ron Aiken.